The first time I saw Jessica cheating on me, I didn't even realize it. That's the crazy part. It was just another Tuesday, just another coffee shop, just another man sitting across from my wife. Nothing obvious, nothing scandalous, but something was off. Like a song that skips half a beat, just enough to make you stop and listen. I hadn't planned on being there. I was supposed to be at work, grinding through spreadsheets, but a last-minute meeting got canceled. I figured I'd grab a coffee, maybe clear my head. I walked in, ordered a black coffee, nothing fancy, and turned toward the seating area. That's when I saw them, Jessica and some guy. He wasn't just some guy though. He had that clean, effortless look, sharp haircut, nice watch, expensive suit but not too flashy. The kind of guy who walks into a room and expects the world to shift slightly in his favor. And my wife, she was leaning in, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup, her lips curling into a smile that wasn't meant for me. At first, I told myself it was nothing. Client, coworker, a friend. But then I caught it, the way her knee brushed against his under the table. The way her hand lingered a second too long when she passed him her phone. The way he looked at her like he already knew what she felt like against him. I should have confronted her right there, made a scene. But something inside me pulled back. Instead, I did something worse. I walked up to their table like I didn't have a clue. "Hey babe." My voice was smooth, controlled. A predator testing the weight of its prey. Jessica's entire body went rigid. For a split second, she looked like a deer frozen in headlights, and that was all the confirmation I needed. She blinked fast, recovering. "Oh, hey, what are you doing here?" Her laugh was forced, her eyes darting between me and the man sitting across from her. I smiled, not at her, at him. I extended my hand. "Don't believe we've met." He hesitated. Smart. His grip was firm but not aggressive. "I'm Daniel." Jessica jumped in. He's from work. We were just going over some reports." I nodded slowly, taking in every micro-expression on her face. She was lying. Badly. I turned my attention back to Daniel. "Oh yeah? What do you do?" He opened his mouth, but Jessica cut him off. "Babe, you're interrupting. We were actually in the middle of something." "Babe." Oh, she was desperate to get me away from that table. I didn't move. "You know, Jess, I don't remember you mentioning a meeting today." Her eyes flashed with something sharp. "I don't tell you every detail of my schedule." There it was. The defense. The immediate pushback. If she had nothing to hide, she would have laughed it off, invited me to sit down, let Daniel explain himself. But instead, she was trying to shut me out. Fast. So I leaned in closer, just enough to make Daniel uncomfortable. "You married Daniel?" He shifted in his seat. No." I let my smile widen. "Girlfriend?" "No." I tilted my head. "So tell me, man, what exactly do you do with my wife?" Silence. Jessica shot up from her seat. "I don't need to explain myself to you. You're acting crazy." Crazy. The classic deflection. The guilty person's best friend. I kept my voice calm. Crazy would be making assumptions. "I'm just asking questions." She grabbed her bag. "I don't have time for this." I pulled a napkin from the table, grabbed a pen from my pocket, and scribbled for simple words. "Stay away from me." I slid it across the table toward her and met her eyes, watching something flicker behind them. Fear, guilt, maybe even anger. Then I turned on my heel and walked out. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to make a scene. Because this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The moment I walked out of that coffee shop, my phone started buzzing. Jessica. I didn't answer. I wanted her to sit with that napkin, with those 4 words, with the sudden shift in her perfect little game. I wanted her to squirm. By the time I pulled into our driveway, my missed call count was in the double digits. 2 texts from her, one a frantic, "Where are you?" and the other, my favorite, "You're being ridiculous." Ridiculous. I caught her on a date with another man, and I was the one being ridiculous? I stepped into the house, and the smell of lavender candles and her overpriced shampoo filled the air. Everything looked normal. The shoes by the door, the throw blanket on the couch, our wedding photo hanging in the hallway, a perfectly staged life. Jessica walked in 5 minutes later. Fast, breathless, probably drove like a maniac trying to beat me home. What the hell was that? She demanded, slamming her purse onto the counter. I took my time unbuttoning my sleeves, rolling them up past my elbows. I was about to ask you the same thing. Her jaw clenched. You embarrassed me. I laughed. Actually laughed. That's what you're mad about? Not that you were sitting there, all over some guy. She scoffed. I was not all over him. Jesus, you're overreacting. We were just talking. Just talking. I repeated, nodding slowly, like I was actually considering her words. That why you nearly jumped out of your skin when I walked up? She exhaled sharply, crossing her arms. Because you stormed in like some jealous psycho. Do you even hear yourself? There it was. The classic turn it back on me move. I had to give her credit. She was quick. Smooth, but not smooth enough. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Tell me something, Jess. Why'd you call me crazy instead of just telling me the truth? She hesitated. A flicker of something in her eyes. Guilt, fear, calculation. Then she doubled down. Because there's nothing to tell. I have male colleagues. It's not a crime. I leaned against the counter. Male colleagues, huh? So what's Daniel's last name? She blinked. Gotcha. She had no idea. No way to spin it. Because she hadn't met him at work. Jessica shifted, trying to recover. I don't know his last name off the top of my head. A smirk tugged at my lips. Really? You have work meetings with guys whose last names you don't know? Silence. I watched as she struggled to piece together something believable. I could practically see the gears in her head turning, trying to rewrite the past 30 minutes in real time. Finally, she sighed. Fine. He's not from work. I raised an eyebrow. No kidding. He's a friend, okay? She snapped. Someone I met a few weeks ago. We got coffee a couple of times, that's it. You're blowing this out of proportion. A few weeks ago. Funny. That's about when she started locking her phone. I inhaled slowly, running my tongue over my teeth. Tell me, Jess, if I hadn't walked into that coffee shop, would you have ever mentioned him? Another flicker of hesitation. Then, yes. She was a terrible liar. Always had been. But now she was desperate. I tilted my head. You hesitated. No, I didn't. You did. She groaned, rubbing her temples. God, I can't believe this. You're making something out of nothing. I pushed off the counter, my heart hammering against my ribs, but my voice stayed even. I don't think I am. I think you've been sneaking around behind my back. I think you've been lying to my face. She shook her head, fake laughter bubbling up. You sound insane. Do you hear yourself? That was the moment I decided. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't an accident. This was a game. One she had been playing for weeks, maybe months, without me even realizing it. And now I was in. But not the way she expected. She thought I'd yell, that I'd argue, that I'd fight to prove what I already knew. But why would I do that? Why would I give her the satisfaction of watching me unravel? No, if she wanted to play dirty, I'd show her just how messy things could get. I smiled. Not a big one. Just enough for her to see that something had shifted. You're right, Jess, I said quietly. I'm making a big deal out of nothing. The tension in her shoulders loosened slightly. Finally, I nodded, stepping past her. I'm gonna grab a shower. And as I walked away, I could feel her watching me, trying to figure out why I had suddenly backed down. But she had no idea. This wasn't over. Not even close. The moment I turned on the shower, I sat on the edge of the tub and listened. I wasn't showering. I was waiting. Jessica stood outside the bathroom for a second, silent, listening. Then I heard her footsteps, quick and light, moving down the hall. I counted the seconds in my head. 5, 10, 15. Then, just as I expected, the bedroom door creaked open. She wasn't going to let it go. She needed to check if I was really buying her lies. Needed to make sure I wasn't snooping through her phone. What she didn't know. I wasn't snooping. I already had everything I needed. Because before I got home, I stopped by a friend's place. Someone who knew their way around a phone. Someone who owed me a favor. Jessica thought she was careful. Locking her phone. Deleting texts. Using apps that disappeared messages. Cute. But nothing ever truly disappears. Everything leaves a shadow. So while she stood there in our bedroom, pretending everything was fine, I already knew about the hotel. The Marriott on 8th Street, room 312. Last Saturday. She was at a work retreat, except her job hadn't booked any rooms there. And Daniel? He had checked in at the same time. I gripped the edge of the tub, my knuckles going white. The betrayal burned through my veins like gasoline, and every breath I took felt like it might set me on fire. But I didn't move. I didn't make a sound. I waited. Finally, after a few minutes, her footsteps returned. She knocked lightly. "Babe." I turned the water off. Calm. Controlled. "Yeah. Can we talk?" I dried my face with a towel, staring at myself in the mirror. My reflection looked different, harder, sharper. Like I had shed whatever version of myself still wanted to believe in her. "Sure," I said, opening the door. Jessica stood there, her arms crossed. She had changed into a tank top and shorts, her usual, "I want you to look at me" outfit. A distraction. But I wasn't looking at her. Not the way she wanted. She bit her lip, like she was trying to decide how soft to go. Finally, she sighed. "Look, I don't like how that fight went." I leaned against the doorframe. "Oh." She stepped closer, placing a hand on my chest. "I don't want us fighting over nothing." I fought the urge to laugh in her face. "Nothing. I get that it looked weird," she continued. "But I swear, Daniel is just a friend." I said nothing. Just let her talk. Let her dig. Her fingers traced slow circles on my chest, a move she always used to soften me up. "You trust me, don't you?" There it was. The final card. The make him feel guilty card. I met her eyes, and I smiled. "Of course, Jess." Relief flickered across her face. "See? I knew we were fine." She leaned in, pressing a kiss to my jaw, her voice dropping to that soft, sultry tone. "Let me make it up to you." I gently grabbed her wrist, stopping her. She looked confused. "I actually have a work thing tomorrow," I said casually. "Might be out late." Her brows furrowed. "Since when?" "Just came up." I kissed her forehead and stepped past her. "Don't wait up." She had no idea, because tomorrow, I wasn't going to work. I was going to the Marriott, room 312. And I was going to rip her entire world apart. I arrived at the Marriott on 8th Street at exactly 6:45 p.m. Not too early, not too late, just enough time to get into position. The hotel lobby smelled like lemon polish and bad decisions. Businessmen in cheap suits hovered near the bar, and a few couples lingered by the check-in desk, their conversations hushed. I wasn't interested in any of them. I was here for one thing. Room 312. Jessica thought she was untouchable. She thought she had everything under control. But she had no idea how deep I had dug. I already knew the pattern. Her pattern. Every other Thursday, she met Daniel here. They checked in separately. Jessica always arrived first. Daniel about 15 minutes later. They stayed for 2 hours. Not 3. Not 1. Always 2. Then they left in separate cars, went back to their real lives, and pretended none of it ever happened. Except tonight, things were going to be different. I took the elevator up to the 3rd floor and walked down the carpeted hallway. My pulse steady, my hands loose at my sides. Room 312. I knocked. Silence. Then, light footsteps. The sound of someone approaching the door. Jessica's voice, muffled through the wood. "You're early." I smiled. "No, I'm right on time." The lock clicked. The door cracked open just enough for her to peek out. The second she saw me, her face dropped. She tried to slam the door. I was faster. I shoved my palm against it, forcing it open as I stepped inside. Jessica stumbled backward, nearly tripping over herself. She was wrapped in a white hotel robe, her hair damp like she had just stepped out of the shower. The room smelled like citrus shampoo and freshly ironed betrayal. What are you doing here?" Her voice shook, but she tried to recover. Are you following me now?" I shut the door behind me. Slowly, deliberately. "No, Jess," I said, keeping my voice level. "I'm just here for a friendly chat." She swallowed hard, her fingers gripping the robe like it was some kind of shield. "This isn't what it looks like." I let out a small chuckle. She was still trying, still fighting to keep the lie alive. "Is that right?" I took a slow step forward. "Because it looks like you're standing in a hotel room, half naked, waiting for another man. Jessica shook her head fast, too fast. It's not like that. And then, right on cue, came the knock at the door. Daniel. Jessica's eyes went wide. She turned toward the door like she could somehow make this go away. Like she could erase the last 60 seconds and rewrite the scene where she wasn't a cheating, lying snake. She hesitated. And in that hesitation, I moved first. I walked right past her and yanked the door open. And there he was. Daniel. The other man. He looked just as shocked as she did. He wore dark jeans and a button-down. His sleeves rolled up like he had just come from work. He wasn't a bad-looking guy, he just wasn't me. His gaze flickered from me to Jessica. His jaw tensed. His brain was catching up. He started, shifting awkwardly. Is this? I smirked. Oh yeah, this is happening. Daniel took half a step back. I think I should. I grabbed the doorframe. No, man. Stay. My tone was almost friendly. You and I? We should talk. Jessica lost it. Stop it, she yelled, stepping between us. This is insane. What are you even doing here? I tilted my head. Oh, you mean what am I doing in your secret hookup spot with your secret boyfriend? I turned to Daniel. She tell you she was married? Daniel's face went pale. Oh, so she hadn't told him. Interesting. I laughed, running a hand down my face. Wow. Okay. So let me get this straight. I turned back to Jessica. You're cheating on me, but you couldn't even be honest about that? You had to cheat on your cheating. I was going to tell him, she snapped. But you, I raised a hand. Save it, Jess. I don't need your excuses. Daniel cleared his throat, finally finding his voice. Look, man, I had no idea she was married. I wouldn't have. I held up a hand. Oh, I believe you. I gave Jessica a long, slow look. She's the liar here. Jessica's face twisted in frustration. Are you done? I smiled. Not even close. I turned back to Daniel. Tell me, man, what did she tell you about me? He hesitated. Jessica froze. She knew whatever he said next could destroy her. And that's exactly why I wanted to hear it. Daniel sighed. She said, you two were separated. I let out a low whistle. Wow, that's creative. Jessica's face turned red. I was going to tell you the truth, she muttered. I folded my arms. Oh, when? Before or after you slept with him? Silence. And there it was. The final, undeniable, inescapable truth. Jessica had no comeback. No excuse. No way out. I let that silence stretch between us. Let her feel the weight of it. Let her feel what it was like to be caught. Then slowly I stepped back. You know what, Jess? You win. She blinked. What? I gestured to Daniel. I hope he was worth it. Because you're done. Jessica swallowed hard. You don't mean that. I chuckled. Oh, I do. I turned to Daniel. Good luck, man. I clapped a hand on his shoulder as I walked past him. You're gonna need it. And with that, I walked out. No more words. No more fights. Just the sound of the door slamming behind me. Jessica thought she had control. But the game was over. The air outside the hotel was sharp and cold, like it had been waiting for me to step out so it could cut me open. I walked across the parking lot without looking back, my hands clenched into fists, my pulse hammering against my skull. I had done it. I had cornered her, exposed her, ripped the mask straight off her face. And yet I didn't feel relief. I felt like I was choking, like no matter how deep I inhaled, something was still stuck inside me, twisting, rotting. The worst part, even after everything, I could still hear her voice in my head, still picture her face, wide-eyed and desperate as she tried to lie her way out of it. You don't mean that. Like I was supposed to forgive her, like I was supposed to fight for her. I reached my car, yanked the door open, and sat there with my hands gripping the steering wheel. The hotel loomed in the rearview mirror, a towering reminder of the life I thought I had, the life she set on fire. And then, like clockwork, my phone buzzed. I didn't even have to look. I already knew. Jessica. I let it ring. Then, a text. Can we talk? I exhaled sharply through my nose. Unbelievable. She still thought she had a say in this. Still thought there was a version of events where she got to explain herself. Another text. I messed up, But we can fix this. Fix this. I let out a slow, bitter laugh. I started typing. Then I stopped. Because what was the point? There was no text I could send. No words I could say that would make her understand what she had done. So I did something better. I blocked her. Then, I started the car and drove home. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked different. It wasn't. But I was. I walked inside, and everything was exactly where it had always been. Her shoes by the door, her favorite blanket on the couch, the framed pictures of us on the hallway wall. I stared at those photos for a long time. Jessica smiling. Jessica holding my hand. Jessica kissing my cheek. A woman I didn't know. A ghost wearing my wife's face. I turned away and walked straight into the bedroom. Opened her closet. Grabbed the first suitcase I saw and threw it onto the bed. Then I started packing. Shirts, dresses, makeup, perfume, everything that smelled like her. Everything that belonged to her. I ripped her stupid candle collection off the dresser. Tossed them in. Grabbed her hairbrush, her stupid silk robe, the dumb little his and hers mug set we bought at some tourist trap years ago. Gone. All of it. By the time I was done, my chest was heaving. My hands shook as I zipped up the suitcase and dragged it toward the front door. And just as I dropped it onto the porch, headlights flooded the driveway. I didn't move. The engine cut off. The car door slammed. And then Jessica. She stormed up the path, her face twisted in fury. Are you serious right now? I stared at her. Silent. Her eyes flicked to the suitcase. Then back to me. What is this? I leaned against the doorframe. This is your new home starter kit. Her nostrils flared. You are being so dramatic. I laughed under my breath. Yeah? You think? Jessica crossed her arms. We need to talk. No, I said, voice cold. We don't. She took a sharp step forward. I made a mistake, okay? But we've been together for too long to just... I held up a hand. No, you made a choice. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. A mistake is fixable. What you did, that's who you are. Jessica's lips parted like she had something to say, but nothing came out. I let the silence stretch between us. Let her feel the weight of it. Then, finally, she exhaled sharply. You don't just throw away 8 years over one thing. I tilted my head. One thing. Jessica's jaw clenched. I mean... I stepped forward, close enough for her to see exactly what she had done to me. You didn't just cheat, Jess. You lied. Repeatedly. You snuck around. You looked me in the eyes, kissed me, held my hand, and still went back to him. She swallowed. I cut her off. And you did it again tonight. Right up until the moment I made it impossible for you to keep lying. Her mouth opened, closed, because she knew I was right. And then the last nail in her coffin. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and held it up. Tell me, Jess, I said quietly. Why'd you book the Marriott again for next week? Her face drained of color. Yeah, that's right. I knew. Jessica panicked. I didn't. That's not. I slid my phone back into my pocket. Get your stuff, Jess. She stood there, staring at me like she was searching for the right thing to say. The thing that would undo this. But she had nothing. Finally, her shoulders dropped. Defeated. She grabbed the suitcase, yanked it up, and turned away without another word. She climbed into her car. The engine rumbled to life. And then she was gone. I stood there, the cold air biting at my skin, staring at the empty driveway where my wife used to be. But she had been gone long before tonight. I just hadn't seen it yet. The silence in the house was deafening. For years, Jessica's presence had been everywhere. Her perfume lingering in the air, her voice filling every room, her laughter bouncing off the walls like a permanent echo. But now there was nothing, and I liked it. I poured myself a drink, bourbon, neat, and sank onto the couch, stretching my legs out in front of me. The glass felt cool in my hands, the liquid burning down my throat in a way that made me feel real again. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't drowning in questions. I knew the truth, and the truth was freeing. But Jessica, she wasn't done. At exactly 11:24 p.m., my phone lit up with an unknown number. I stared at it, amused. She really thought I'd fall for that? The call went to voicemail. Not 2 minutes later, A text came through. I know you blocked me, but we need to talk. Please, it's important. I let out a slow breath, rolling the glass between my fingers. She still didn't get it. She still thought she had control. I left the message unread. Then, at midnight, someone knocked on the door. I didn't move right away, just sat there, swirling my drink, waiting to see if she'd knock again. She did. 3 sharp raps against the wood. Desperate. Impatient. I exhaled through my nose, setting my glass down before pushing myself up. I opened the door slowly, deliberately, just enough to see her standing there. Jessica. She was a mess. Her hair was disheveled like she had been running her hands through it all night. Her makeup was smudged. She wore an old hoodie mine and sweatpants, her usual feel-sorry-for-me outfit. The last time she showed up at my door like this, we were in college. She had failed a big exam and cried in my arms, telling me she felt like a failure. Funny. This time, she actually was. I leaned against the doorframe. What do you want, Jess? Her eyes flickered over my face, searching for some sign that I wasn't serious about all this, that she could still win. I need to talk to you, she said, her voice quieter than before. I raised an eyebrow. Pretty sure we said everything that needed to be said. She shook her head. No. I need to tell you the truth. I let out a dry laugh. Oh, now you're interested in the truth? Her jaw tightened. I mean it. I crossed my arms, watching her. All right, go ahead. Tell me. Jessica inhaled, bracing herself like she was about to give some dramatic, heartfelt confession. I messed up, she started, swallowing hard. I know I did. But it wasn't just about Daniel. I didn't move, didn't blink. She kept going. It wasn't just about being with someone else. It was about us. I sighed, already exhausted. Jess? She stepped forward, her hands clenched into fists. I was lonely, okay? You stopped paying attention to me. You were always busy, always distracted. And I tilted my head. So that's it? That's your grand confession. She pressed her lips together. I didn't mean for it to happen. I let out a low chuckle. You didn't mean for it to happen? Jessica's face twisted. I cut her off. Did you trip and fall into a hotel room with him? Her expression darkened. That's not fair. Oh, I'm sorry. Would you like to talk about what's fair? I leaned in slightly. What's fair is me finding out my wife has been sneaking off to hotels while coming home and kissing me like nothing happened. Jessica's breath hitched. I never stopped loving you. I smirked. Yeah, you sure had a funny way of showing it. Her eyes shone with frustration. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I didn't want to lose you like this. I ran my tongue over my teeth, staring at her. You lost me a long time ago, Jess. She inhaled sharply, like I had physically hit her. Good. Jessica blinked fast, looking at me like she was finally realizing she wasn't getting out of this, that she had destroyed everything. I don't want it to end like this, she whispered. I exhaled, shaking my head. You don't get to decide how this ends. Jessica swallowed. So that's it? We're just over. I let that hang in the air for a long time. Then I smiled. We were over the second I walked into that hotel room. Her breath hitched. She knew it was the truth. She just didn't want to hear it. Jessica stood there, waiting for something that wasn't coming. I didn't give it to her. Instead, I stepped back. Goodbye, Jess. Then I shut the door in her face. For the first time in weeks, I finally felt free. Jessica was gone. For good. Or so I thought. The morning after I shut the door in her face, I woke up feeling lighter. The air in the house felt different, like it had been suffocating under her presence for years and was finally breathing again. I took my time getting out of bed, made myself breakfast, drank my coffee in silence. No tension, no paranoia, no wondering if the woman across from me was lying to my face. But peace? It didn't last long, because by noon, I got the first call. Not from Jessica, from my boss. Hey man, he started, voice hesitant. Just wanted to check in. Everything good? I frowned, setting my coffee down. Yeah. Why? He cleared his throat. Look, I hate to bring this up, but HR got a complaint this morning. I leaned back in my chair. A complaint about what? There was a pause. Then, Jessica. My fingers curled into fists. What about her? She called this morning, my boss said carefully. Claimed you've been unstable, that you might pose a risk to the company. I let out a slow breath. Unbelievable. Jessica knew exactly what she was doing. I had cut her out, shut her down, thrown her out of my life. So now she was trying to burn mine to the ground. I forced my voice to stay calm. And you believe her? No, man. But HR has to follow protocol. Just keep your head down for now, all right? I clenched my jaw. Yeah, got it. I hung up without another word. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I felt something worse than betrayal. Rage. Jessica had already destroyed our marriage. That wasn't enough for her? Now she wanted to come for my job? My reputation? I wasn't going to sit back and take it. She wanted to play dirty? Fine. She had no idea what was coming. By the time the sun set, I had everything I needed. I went through our shared accounts, pulled every financial record, every suspicious charge. The hotel bills were obvious, but then I found something better. Jessica had been using our joint credit card to pay for Daniel's expensive dinners, his gifts, his little weekend getaways. And I had receipts. I called my lawyer. File for divorce, I said, and send her lawyer the financial statements. Pause. Are you sure? We can start with a warning. Maybe a, no, my voice was cold, deadly. I want her blindsided, just like she did to me. And blindsided she was, because the second she got served with the divorce papers, she showed up at my door again. This time not in tears. This time furious. You're disgusting, she spat, shoving the documents at my chest. You really think you can do this to me? I leaned against the doorframe, sipping my beer. Oh, I don't think, Jess. I know. She scoffed, pacing in the driveway like she was about to explode. This is cruel. You don't have to take it this far. I smiled. Neither did you. Jessica's nostrils flared. You can't just ruin my life because you're bitter. I tilted my head. Oh? You mean like you tried to ruin mine? She blinked. And there it was. The flicker of realization. She thought she could play dirty. Thought she could twist the knife one last time and walk away untouched. But she forgot something. I know exactly who she is. And now, so does everyone else. I took a slow sip of my beer, letting her stew in her own failure. Then, quietly, I said the last thing she ever expected. I hope he was worth it. Jessica froze, because for the first time, she knew. She lost. Jessica didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe. She just stood there, frozen in the middle of my driveway, gripping the divorce papers like they were the last thing holding her together. She had spent months, maybe years, carefully crafting her lies, spinning her web, thinking she was untouchable. But now, she was the one caught. I watched as the anger in her eyes shifted, flickering unsteady, like she was realizing, in real time, that she had played this game wrong, that she had bet everything on the wrong hand. I let the silence stretch between us, let her stew in it. Then, finally, she exhaled sharply and switched tactics. Look, she started, her voice softer now, calculated. We don't have to do this. I almost laughed. Of course. She had tried anger, tried guilt. Now she was trying reason. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. And what exactly is this, Jess? She took a careful step forward, lowering her voice like she was trying to sound gentle. The fighting, the revenge. We don't have to tear each other apart. I raised an eyebrow. You mean, I don't have to tear you apart? She swallowed hard. I don't want things to end like this. I smirked. You didn't seem too concerned about that when you were sleeping with Daniel. Her eyes flashed. A crack in the mask. I had her. She took another step closer. I was wrong. Okay? I see that now. I made a mistake. I tilted my head. Funny how you only see it after I caught you. She hesitated. I still care about you. I let out a slow, deliberate breath, then stepped forward, close enough to watch her squirm. Let's get one thing straight, I said quietly. You don't care about me, Jess. You care about losing. Her lips parted, but I wasn't finished. You thought you could cheat, lie, humiliate me, and I'd still be here, waiting for you to explain it away. I chuckled under my breath. But now that I've cut you off? Now that you're losing everything? I shook my head. Now you care. Jessica's jaw clenched. I just don't want you to hate me. I smiled. Cruel. Cold. Final. Oh, Jess. I leaned in slightly. You're not worth hating. Her breath hitched. For the first time, she looked small. Like she finally understood. She had nothing left. No excuses. No lies. No control. Just consequences. Jessica blinked fast, as if trying to hold back whatever pathetic excuse for tears she thought might save her. But I wasn't falling for it. Not this time. She swallowed hard, nodding stiffly like she had accepted her fate. Fine, she whispered. I hope you're happy. And then she turned, walking away without another word. I didn't stop her. I didn't need to, because as I watched her climb into her car, slam the door, and speed off down the street, I realized something. I was happy, because for the first time in years I was free. And she would spend the rest of her life knowing exactly what she lost. Game over, Jess.